Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. It is another edition of the interviews, and today I am joined by Rob Dawson. Thank you for joining us today. Are you having a good day so far?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. So let's get into some questions to start off with. Straight away from last night, it was reported that Ten Hag's current Ajax assistant, Mitchell van der Gaag, is wanted as Manchester United to employ him as his assistant there. There's some rumours coming out about that overnight. There've been other rumours about McLaren possibly joining him, possibly Robin van Persie, but then there was an issue with a work permit reported. Is there any new updates on who Ten Hag's assistant is going to be? And is there any clarity we can get on that and how close it is being appointed?
Yeah, I mean, the Mitchell van der Gaag one is something that there was talked about when Ten Hag was negotiating to be United manager in the first place. He was one of the names that he was kind of keen to bring with him from Ajax. There was a suggestion at one point Ajax would have quite liked him to stay, but I think it looks like he's going to be moving to Old Trafford. I think one of the main things that Ajax have wanted to do is to avoid rocking the boat too much. Obviously, they're going to lose their manager, but they didn't want to rock the boat too much during the end of the season when they're still trying to win the title. So they didn't want too much upset. But I think once Ajax's season finishes on May the 15th, I think we'll get more clarity on members of Ten Hag's staff. You've mentioned there about the other names that have been linked, the likes of Steve McLaren, Robin van Persie. Ten Hag was keen, or is keen to have someone with Man United links on his staff. You're right in what you say that there was there is an issue with Van Persie's work permit, given the rules around Brexit. Now it's harder to bring coaches in. It's not as easy as it used to be. So it's something that would need to be addressed if it is going to be Robin van Persie. But I think at the moment that Ten Hag will bring in Mitchell van der Gaag, and then we'll come to Old Trafford and assess what is already at the club in terms of backroom staff. You'll see what's already there, see if there's anyone there that he really wants to work with, see then if there's any gaps in the staff that he can then fill with his outside appointments. But I think he's made it quite clear that he wants his own team there, but it will be a mixture of staff members who are already at Old Trafford, plus the odd one or two coming from Ajax. There was also a suggestion that he'd asked Fred Rutten as well to be part of his staff, but he's now going to take a role at PSV. So it will be about assessing who's available, who wants to come to Old Trafford, who fits into the roles that he has identified once he gets there, and then sorting that out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's important that he gets some of his own staff in, because we saw issues with Rangnick and him getting his staff in, and potentially that's one of the reasons why things have not gone the way that I thought he would have planned this season. With Ten Hag bringing his own staff in, Manchester United going to allow him to make them decisions. They're going to try their best to get who he wants, because it's crucial, isn't it, going into a new season, that he's allowed to bring in the coaches that are going to help him get the best out of the players, because that's something that hasn't always happened at Manchester United, and coaches have come under criticism there quite a lot over the past few years.
Yeah, you're right. It's massive, absolutely massive. And there was an issue with Rangnick and the staff that he wanted to bring in. I mean, that's a little bit of a different situation in that he was parachuted into the job in the middle of the season. The coaches that he identified, a few of them were unavailable. There was work permit issues around other ones, and he ultimately had to pick from who was available at the time. And I think if Rangnick had his time again, that he may have picked different coaches to help him out, because it is massive. It's all very well United bringing in Ten Hag, and obviously he's got a fantastic track record as a coach at Ajax, but he's certainly not a one-man band. He's had a lot of help from his staff at Ajax and the other jobs he's been in, and he needs to feel comfortable. This is going to be a really, really tough job, whichever way you look at it, and he needs to feel comfortable with the people that he is working with. He needs to feel that he's got their trust, that they're challenging him, that they're challenging him to make the right decisions. So it's absolutely vital. I'm sure that later on we'll talk about players that you might want to bring in, and obviously that is key because they need a massive rebuild in terms of what's there within the squad. But the staff that come in as well is just as important, because Erik ten Hag needs to feel that he is equipped to do the best possible job, and that will start with the people that he has around him.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I feel like it's really important that we get them coaches in, as well as the transfers this summer, which has already been made clear, and we'll get onto a few of them later on. But quickly, before we do move on to potential targets for Manchester United, I just wanted to quickly ask you about something that was reported this week or last week possibly, about Hannibal Mejbri at the Liverpool game. He came on, showed quite a lot of passion, could have potentially got a red card. He reported that Ralph Rangnick saw that as a little bit reckless. And had a little bit of a problem with him doing that. Has there been any issues there between Rangnick and Hannibal Mejbri, because he's not had any game time since that happened?
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything like a personal issue between the pair. I think that Ralph Rangnick was a little bit disappointed in that little cameo that he had at Anfield. It's a difficult one because it was obviously quite a humiliating night for United, and Hannibal got quite a lot of support for his little 6 minutes at the end. Even just the fact that he was running around and was willing to get stuck into challenges. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I think Rangnick had a problem with the way that he went about that there was one or two very, very heavy challenges. I know that Jurgen Klopp wasn't particularly happy towards the end of that game, and certainly in the tunnel afterwards that he had one or two things to say about that, particularly as Liverpool had a lot of really important games going on. You know, the game against United was won. The last thing that he wants as manager of Liverpool is to have someone injured because a young lad has come on and has been a bit over enthusiastic, I suppose we could call it, and injure one of his players. You know, look, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it personally. Obviously, Hannibal was trying to make the most of a very small opportunity that he had, and you know, he won plaudits from a lot of Man United fans and Gary Neville, I think, at the time. I think he's just been reminded by Rangnick that it's, you know, it is a little bit excessive to go steaming around and charging into players at that stage of a game. I think he was just kind of reprimanded a little bit, bumped down to the under-23s, played for the under-23s for a couple of times. I don't think it's going to harm his first team career at Man United. I just think it was a little bit of a reminder that, you know, there is a way to handle yourself in that kind of situation. Look, he's a young player. Young players make mistakes. It's part of growing up and developing. I don't think there's anything personal there. It's just one of those things.
I completely agree with you. Personally, from a Manchester United fan's perspective, it was nice to see someone come on and actually show like a little bit of passion and look like they cared that they were losing. But obviously, at the same time, you've got to show maturity on the football pitch. So there is a fine line, and it's good to see that he is still going to get the opportunity. But moving into the summer, obviously, we know that youth is going to have some opportunity, but we also do need to spend some money and bring some transfers in, especially with the amount of players out of contract, the amount of players that are leaving. A lot of people speculating that Manchester United's budget this summer could be between 50 to 200 million. Reports coming out could be 100 million due to the fact that no Champions League football. Has been reported that we're not going to have as much money to spend. Do you have any idea over the amount of budget that Ten Hag is going to be given in the summer, and potentially how many players we would be looking to bring in?
Yeah, I mean, with things like that, it's a difficult one because, you know, it's easy to think that United have kind of set a budget or you know, sent a piece of paper to Ten Hag and say, look, you can't spend any more than this. This is what we've got, and this is what you can spend. You know, in reality, it's a little bit different to that. You know, United would work to a plan usually of spending around about between 100 and 150 million in terms of net spend, but it's not a hard and fast rule. You know, they've got a list of targets, a list of positions that they want to strengthen, a list of targets for each of those positions, and it will be about who's available, how those negotiations go with that player's club. So there's a million and one different factors that come in before signing a player. All United can do at the moment is work to a plan that they have done in the past. The plan usually is to sign around about 3 players. You know, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 2, but around about 3, and let 3 go. The net spend around those players is, as I've just said, is between about 100 and 150 million, and that will be the vague plan again. The difference this summer is that there are quite a few players who are out of contract. It's not normal for United to get to that point usually. But this summer, you've got a situation where you could lose Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard. Matic has already said he's going. You could lose Mata. Dean Henderson is very keen to go, whether it's on loan or permanently. So there will be a number of departures. And obviously those places in the squad will have to be filled, particularly if there's European football. So, look, again, it's not a case that Ten Hag has been told, you cannot spend more than this amount. It'll be about securing the right targets, maybe prioritizing different positions in terms of how badly that player is needed. And then you'll just see. It won't be a case that United are going to spend 500 million because the money just isn't there. It will be, not modest is the wrong word, but it will be around about 150 million net spend. If it's over and it's the right player, then United will sanction that. If it's lower than that, they won't say, look, we have to spend this budget. It'll be about making the right decisions on the right players.
Could you see, in terms of, obviously, agree with you. It's not going to all happen in one summer. You're going to need to prioritise certain players now and potentially prioritise certain players for the future in future summer transfer windows, or even possibly the January transfer window. But looking at this summer, with the amount of targets that United should have realistically, looking at the squad, do you think it will be a case where Manchester United look to secure players possibly on a free transfer, such as Christian Eriksen available in the summer? Are they going to have to go down that route, do you think?
It's possible. And to be honest, I mean, just from a personal point of view, it would be nice to see United be that creative in the transfer market, because it's something that they've missed. You know, it's not always a case of having to go out and spending £100 million on a player. You know, there are bargains to be found. I mean, and that's one of the things that Ralf Rangnick has brought with him. You know, that knowledge, particularly of the Bundesliga, where there are players who would cost around sort of 30 million euros, 40 million euros, who can come in and supplement the squad. You know, maybe they're not an established superstar, but they can come in and they can do a job. You know, they're playing at a high level in the Bundesliga. They'll probably have Champions League experience, and that way you create a strong squad in the way that, you know, we've seen Liverpool do in the past. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice for United to be able to do that. You know, whether it's Christian Eriksen on a free or someone else, because ultimately Rangnick wants to take them down a route, or has said that he wants to take them down a route where they're not relying on spending £100 million on a player, because those deals are incredibly hard to do. And obviously the squad in general is going to be a lot weaker this summer than perhaps we've seen in previous summers, and they are going to have to bring people in just to kind of supplement the numbers. So yeah, man, it would be great to see United, you know, show a little bit more creativity in the transfer market. It's obviously the first, or one of the first summers where we've had that new structure in place at the club. And I think United fans would enjoy that if they could go and pluck a rough diamond, say, from the Bundesliga and turn him into a player and developing themselves, because that's something that United really have missed over the last few years.
Exactly, and that has been one of the that's been something that's pulled us apart from the top teams as well, because the top teams have seemed to go and do that, and we seem to be stuck in the past a little bit, possibly going for players that are obvious choices or even slightly past it in the career. And Cavani's an amazing player, but you would say that he's someone who was past his prime at that point, even though he's still a great player. Manchester United should be looking for players that are going to come on a cheaper wage bill and they can develop and have for the future. So that would be definitely nice to see. Looking at a young striker potentially, it's been rumoured that Manchester United's top target is a striker. Darwin Núñez is a name that keeps floating around. He plays for Benfica now. He seems like he's going to go in the summer, but he's another player that's going to be 75, 80 million. Is he a top target for Manchester United? And also, looking at the striker situation, now Haaland is going to Manchester City, it's been confirmed. Is there any chance Manchester United could possibly go back down the Harry Kane route, or is that just completely off the table? Again, like you said, because of the money and because of Conte wanting to have Kane as part of his project.
Yeah, I mean, first off, a striker is certainly, you know, top of United's list. I think Rangnick has said publicly that they probably need two strikers. You know, whether that's possible or not, I'm not sure, but certainly one, you know, would be a bare minimum for United, I think, given what else is happening within the squad with Mason Greenwood and Anthony Martial. Darwin Núñez at Benfica is certainly someone that they've looked at. The last we heard on that is that Benfica weren't willing to negotiate around anything less than about 130 million euros, which is obviously a massive amount of money for any player, even one as good as him. You know, there have been issues around his injury record and a possible knee injury as well, which would concern United. But, you know, as of right now, he's certainly someone that is still on the list, and we're led to believe that he would quite like to play in the Premier League. The Harry Kane is another one. You know, everyone will know, listening to this, how good a player Harry Kane is. You know, Rangnick would like, or has said that he would like the club to sign younger players. But if a player like Harry Kane became available, it's something that United would have to look at, given their need for an out-and-out number 9. Obviously, he's a little bit older. I think he's 28, 29. So you're talking about someone getting towards the end of his career, but someone who you could still get a good 5 years out of, particularly when someone's proven like that in the Premier League in terms of his goal return. The issue around Kane is again going to be his price. You mentioned there about Haaland. City have only signed Haaland because they couldn't get Kane last summer, and they couldn't get Kane because Spurs refused to negotiate on his price. They were talking about £150 million, which City just weren't ever going to pay. He's still got a couple of years left on his contract. we're led to believe that Harry Kane is a lot happier at Spurs this summer, or at this moment, than he was last summer. He's got Conte in. There's a possibility that they may be playing Champions League football next year. United obviously aren't going to be playing Champions League football, which would come into his decision making. But I think with Harry Kane, there are still players out there that United feel that if they become available, they would have to try and sign. And Harry Kane is one of those, particularly because they're so desperate for a centre forward.
100%. He's a top player. The only issue there is his price. I agree with you, and he would be able to fit into the Premier League style easily because he's already playing in it. So it'll be interesting to see what route Manchester United do go down in the summer. Another name that we have been linked to is Frankie de Jong at Barcelona. I mean, he's been linked to Manchester City and Manchester United recently. It seems like Barcelona are open to selling him, but it seems like de Jong wants to stay there. Obviously, that they've got Champions League football, which is a massive plus. Is there any truth in the fact that he could make a move to either of the Manchester clubs this summer? Because I know you specialise in both, and I feel like it is an option for Frankie de Jong this summer, certainly with Barcelona possibly looking to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like an obvious one, doesn't it? Because Ten Hag obviously had success with him at Ajax. I think at the moment we're led to believe that he's quite happy to stay at Barcelona if they want him. I think Xavi said publicly that he's keen to build his next team around de Jong, and that unless he's told to sell him, that he just won't go. Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated in that Barcelona, financially aren't as strong as they used to be, and if they think they can get a big fee for him and reuse that elsewhere, then maybe it's a possibility. The last I'd heard about that was that United had kind of tried to see if there was any possibility, and were told no, that if he were to move, it would only be to someone like City. That City are playing Champions League football, they are challenging in the Premier League and the Champions League every year. That he would be keen or would like to play under Pep Guardiola. So I would imagine at this time that he would stay at Barcelona. That if he did move, it would be far more likely that he ended up at City rather than United. But again, the fact that United have been to Barcelona to ask about his availability, or been to Frankie de Jong and asked about whether he would be keen, just shows you the kind of areas of the team that United are looking to strengthen. I think you've mentioned a striker there. I think that's obvious for all Man United fans, but also they could do with a central midfield player. Whether it's a playmaking holding midfielder or an out-and-out defensive midfielder in the mould of Declan Rice, say. It's another area of the squad that really needs strengthened. You talk about priorities of the squad and what needs to be spent where. I think striker and holding midfielder or central midfielder are two of the key ones really before the start of next season.
Absolutely agree. I think they massively need improvement there, and hopefully we do manage to get the signings in. But that's going to be the story with a lot of players we go for. I'd rather play for a club that's in the Champions League, which is unfortunate, but we'll have to see what we can do. A player that should be playing Champions League football but might not be next summer is Ronaldo. I mean, United still have a chance to drop down into the Europa Conference League. Can you see, is Ronaldo going to stay at Manchester United, do you think? I mean, there's been rumoured that he wants to make Manchester United great again, but can you see him playing in the Europa League, Europa Conference League potentially?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something that Cristiano would have never envisaged when he agreed to come back last summer. I think he had kind of expectations of challenging for the Premier League title and getting to the last stage of the Champions League, not discovering what the rules are for the Europa Conference League and which kind of teams you could play. Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated one, that, because I don't think there's any doubt that Ronaldo would love to re-establish Man United as a top club and help them win something again. But there's no escaping the fact that he's 37 years old and that he is at the end of a very, very successful career, and he hasn't got that many years left. And it's going to be up to him as to whether he wants to drop down into the Europa League or the Europa Conference League in one of those final years. I think he's got to the stage of his career where he will decide his future. Obviously, he's got a year left on his contract plus an option, but I don't think that would really stand in his way. I think if he went to United and said, look, I can't play here anymore, I need to play in the Champions League, that United would say, right, okay, fair enough. The other complication, though, is his wages. He's on a massive salary at Man United, and it's debatable where he could find that. There have been rumours about possibly going back to Real Madrid. Again, Real Madrid have been hit quite hard by the pandemic and financially aren't as strong as they used to be. And it's debatable whether they could afford that kind of wage. PSG is another one, but PSG have already got Messi. It's, would they want to pair Ronaldo and Messi? Obviously, from a marketing standpoint, that would be absolute gold dust. But again, it's whether Ronaldo wants to go and play second fiddle, I suppose, to Messi, or whether Messi wants him and has to play second fiddle to Ronaldo. I think if Ten Hag makes a proper play for him this summer and tells him that he wants him in his plans and that he's keen to build a team around him, for even if it's for a year, I think Ronaldo will stay. I think as things stand at the moment, because of Ten Hag's commitments with Ajax, I don't think Ten Hag has had phone calls or conversations with the bulk of the players. And I think Ronaldo getting towards the end or getting towards the summer, I think he's had a duty to kind of assess what other options are out there. I think his agents have been working on assessing what clubs would be interested and the kind of the salary expectations that they could expect. But it's not to say that he would definitely leave. It will be about Cristiano assessing all of his options in the summer, speaking to Ten Hag, and then making a decision. My feeling right now is that he'll stay, but that it will be up to Ronaldo. If he decides he wants to stay, then great. If he decides he wants to go, even with a year left of his contract, he'll go.
Exactly, and that's something that massively needs to happen. Ten Hag needs to have them conversations with the players and the board, because we've seen City already making moves like Haaland, and other clubs are going to start making moves, and Manchester United need to be in the race for some of these players. So hopefully we start to see that soon and we get some more information. Lastly, just before we let you get off, obviously we know that you're very busy. I just wanted to quickly ask you about the Marcus Rashford situation. Rumours that he could potentially be leaving Manchester United. Personally, I feel like he's in need of a proper coach and a proper coaching staff, which Erik Ten Hag could provide and bring in. Do you think Manchester United? Do you think Marcus Rashford will stay at Manchester United this summer?
Well, you put me on the spot, but yes. I don't think there's I don't think there's any doubt that Marcus loves Man United, and he's the type of player that Man United want to keep for a long time. Obviously Ten Hag will have a lot of say in the comings and goings, but United felt so confident that Marcus Rashford was part of their future that they were happy to talk about new contracts and stuff, even without Ten Hag's explicit approval, which shows you the high regard that they have him in. Clearly he's going through a bit of a difficult spell. He has had a poor season. He's lost his place in the England team. He's lost his place at United. I think he's just in need of a break. You could possibly say that he needs a change of scenery, but there's no guarantee that he would be any better elsewhere. I think really he just needs a break from football. He needs a summer off, a summer where he's not having operations and not expected to play in a major tournament. And I think from his standpoint at the moment, he's hoping to come back, work with Ten Hag and win back his place at United and with England. I certainly don't think that he's the type of player that United are looking to sell, especially because there are so many other players who are possibly leaving. Man United see Marcus Rashford as their kind of poster boy for the next 10 years. He's from Manchester. He grew up at the club. There's a possibility that they can develop him into a superstar, and that's the plan that they'll still have for him. You can never say never, because if a ridiculous offer came in for any of the players, United would have to consider it. But as far as right now goes, I think there's only very few players who United would be very, very reluctant to sell, and I think Marcus Rashford is one of those.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's had a bad season, but hopefully if he does stay, we can see him turn that around. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm sure all the comments have loved to hear what you had to say, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. But thank you so much for coming on, and have a lovely day.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, guys, that was Rob Dawson, his first interview on the United stand, and it was good to hear from him. There was a lot more stuff that I really did want to ask him, but you only get 20 minutes, so that's all I could ask. I'm sorry about the potential chats or super chats that I might have missed out on there, but you only get 20 minutes with these people. And the information we got was really good, I actually thought. So, it's interesting to see what he had to say about net spend, Ten Hag's assistants, what kind of players we are going to bring in the summer, and what kind of route Manchester United are going to go down. And just before we get on to that, clear up the situation. Mark is not leaving the United stand, everyone. Saw that in the comments a lot. He is doing a video with TalkSport, but he's not leaving the United stand. So don't worry about that. He'll be back on for a lot more shows for the future. So don't worry about that, guys. Anyway, moving on to what Rob Dawson had to say. Regarding Ten Hag and his assistant, to me, it seems like we are going to get the people in that Ten Hag wants to work with. This could be Mitchell van der Gaag. This could be Robin van Persie. This could be McLaren. The only downside to that is that Van Persie isn't going to have his work permit, so that's something Manchester United would need to sort out. And also McLaren, is he available to come in? We're not sure there at the moment. He's going to have to work with some of the British staff that are already at Manchester United. He's going to have to work with some of the team that he's already got there. So it'll be interesting to see who stays and who goes. We see the likes of Darren Fletcher on the sidelines week in, week out, and you think, is he going to be there demanding Ten Hag when he comes in? Are we really going to see this change when Ten Hag comes into Manchester United? Are we really going to see him given the tools to bring in the staff he wants and control the club like a manager needs to do? You see Pep come into Manchester City. He has full control. He brings in all of his own coaching staff. He brings in all of his own team, and he decides on the transfers together with the board. You see you see Jurgen Klopp. He does the same thing. All of his staff are his, and they've been working together as a team. Whereas you look at Manchester United, and like Rob Dawson stated there, Rangnick wasn't allowed to bring in all of the staff that he wanted. He wasn't allowed to do that. He was forced to work with people he necessarily didn't want to work with. And what my worry is going forward is that could potentially happen again. Like, we don't want Ten Hag there being forced to work with people he doesn't want to work with, and not being able to have his team around him, because like Rob Dawson said, it's not a one-man band, and we need coaches and staff in that are going to be able to work with Ten Hag to be a team to bring Manchester United forward and completely have a refresh. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I hope he gets to bring in the people that he wants to, but like he said, it's not going to be a full clear out of backroom staff, which might be disappointing to a lot of you in the chat. I mean, it's disappointing to me. If I could get rid of everyone, I would, because I don't think there's anyone that you can't point the finger at for what's happened in Manchester United. They've all been there through the tragedy that has been the last few seasons, and especially this season. So a complete refresh is what I think is needed, and not having that is slightly disappointing to me, but knowing he'll be able to bring in his assistant, and we'll get more clarity in that in the next few weeks when he has finished with Ajax, is something that's really exciting, because he's worked with these coaches before, so it'll be exciting to see who he brings across and what actually happens and who's going to be on the sidelines with him. So obviously we'll just have to wait and see for that one, but it's going to be a really exciting time. But what we can't do, guys, is we can't wait for ever when thinking about targets for the summer and when thinking about who to bring in. We need the staff to come in quickly, because we need to have discussions about what targets we're going to bring in for the summer. And obviously everyone put in the comments down below who you'd be interested in getting in for the summer. We've heard some of the names there, such as Frankie de Jong. He's not going to leave Barcelona to go to Manchester United. It's just not going to happen. We thought Ten Hag might have that pull, but what was the answer? Champions League football is off the table. Therefore, he doesn't want to come. And this is a problem that a lot of these players have put us in this summer. You've got this team that are playing Europa League football, and they're not in the Champions League. They've been in and out of the Champions League for years now. We've not sustained Champions League football. So what players are going to want to come and downgrade to play in the Europa League? Yes, Ronaldo is a pull. 100% Ronaldo is a pull if he stays, which it seems like it is likely that he's going to. But when you've got Manchester City offering Champions League football under a coach that is considered world-class, is a world-class coach, with as well bringing Erling Haaland in, that shows the ambition. And it's so sad as a Manchester United fan to sit back and think that is where we're at. We're not going to be able to get all the top targets this summer. But unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. And like Rob said, we're going to have to go for some little gems out there. We're going to have to potentially go for some free transfers. And we're going to have to rely on a scouting network that hopefully does listen to Rangnick and brings in young players that are hungry to be coached and to learn. And it's not going to be an overnight job. I won't be surprised if this summer we bring in players that aren't very high profile. Like, I mean, Arsenal did bring in players that were on the profile, such as Ben White, Odegaard, but they weren't extremely high-profile players. I wouldn't be surprised if we do that this summer, and next year it's an adjustment season where we're probably not going to get top four. I mean, wow, it'd be amazing if we did, But you'd see what happens when new managers come in and they start afresh and they start a new project. Sometimes it doesn't gel straight away. So I won't be surprised if that happens, especially with the budget that we've got. I mean, 150 million. I mean, in the comments below, that's going to be what we have. What would you spend that on? Because I look at that team and I think full-back, centre-back, CDM, box-to-box, striker, possibly a winger. That's 6 positions that we need to fill. And I know we're not going to be able to do all of them in one summer, but we're going to have to split that money to be able to do that. So you think to yourself, Kamara on a free potentially for CDM, that is maybe not going to get into the first team straight away, but he's going to develop. You think possibly 50 million on a centre-back. Then you've got 75 million on Darwin Núñez, which looks like it's likely to happen. Then you've only got 25 million left for another CDM. So you've not got the money. You've got to prioritise this money realistically. And if it was me, I'd be going out and spending 70 million on Tchouaméni rather than Darwin Núñez. But that's just a personal perspective. I think CDM is a massive area of the team that we need to address. But then you think, even if we do go to Tchouaméni with the money to buy him, Liverpool comes in and says, we'll buy you as well. We've got the money. Which one do you think the player's choosing? So it's going to be really interesting to see what Manchester United do over the summer and when things start to get cracking, because this is a worry for me now, is you've got teams that are already making moves for players and they're already going to meet with players to go and discuss contracts, to discuss the projects. We actually haven't even got Ten Hag through the door yet, and we've not even started negotiating with what players he wants, what backroom staff he's getting in. So we've not actually started talking to Ten Hag properly. And you've got clubs that are already out there negotiating and planning transfers. So the last thing you want to do is be on the back foot going into these deals across the summer, knowing as well that you've got pre-season. It's come out in the news today that he wants to get all the players fit because he doesn't see that the players are fit enough to play for Manchester United. You've got him to address the youth players that we didn't get to talk about, that I really wanted to talk about. Ahmad on loan, Garner on loan. He's got to take a look at the squad in general. He's got to see who he's going to keep at the club, who is going to be part of his project, who he thinks he can coach. So it's going to be a massive summer, and it'd be good if we already had targets in place that we knew we were going for. But to me, it seems like they haven't even nailed down the positions that they're going for yet, which is a little bit of a worry. I mean, we know we want to go for a striker, that's 100%. So it'll be interesting to see who we go for on that front. But when it comes to the midfield and centre-back situation, Pau Torres is a name that's been thrown out quite a lot. It's still no confirmation. We're still not 100% sure on what positions we're going to end up going for. And I think there's a few positions that we're going to neglect this summer that we're going to have problems with going into the season, but that's just going to have to be what happens, because realistically, you look at fixing this Manchester United squad, you think you're going to need at least 500 million, which isn't going to happen over the summer. And Ten Hag will just have to work with what he's got, and he'll have to try and produce a team with what he gets given. And 150 million on a usual summer, you'd think that's a decent amount of money, but 150 million on a rebuild, it's not going to get everything you want to get. But you've got players like Rashford, who Rob Dawson says he thinks he'll stay. I agree. I think he will stay. But I even said the other day, to me, he's been the most disappointing player this season for me. And Mark tweeted out, who would you say has been the worst player this season? I mean, it's hard to think of just one because it's been that poor. But what comes to the forefront of my mind, it is Marcus Rashford, because you think of this player that has got the potential, has scored goals for Manchester United in the past, has got the ability, has, even when he's not played well, often been the answer in a lot of our games. And he's just completely been non-existent this year. And body language has been an issue. Minutes on the pitch has been an issue. His touch, getting past players, he's just not been the player that we would have wanted him to be. For me, he's been unrecognisable. I still think he hasn't reached full Manchester United quality while he's really been at the club. He's never been the top player. But I think there is potential there. And if Ten Hag can potentially unlock that is a player that a lot of us have written off that could come in to help the squad. Jadon Sancho, another player that has done reasonably well this year, but under a proper coach and a proper coaching network, is a player that could come on and help the squad, where you would think, yeah, he's been decent this year, but he could step it up another level next year. You look at other players that, Fred, he's come on leaps and bounds under Rangnick, probably the only player that has. Still, for me, not quite good enough. Can Ten Hag take that up another level? Is the players there that can be coached and can kind of come in as new sort of signings? Donny van de Beek also comes under that level as well. I mean, he's not done anything really in a Manchester United shirt, had an unsuccessful loan at Everton. Bear in mind, he has had injuries, 100%, but he was a great player under Ten Hag. That can be a revolutionised player, potentially. So there is players there that can be turned around and can potentially be coached by Ten Hag, but 100% we need money spent. We've just not got enough money to do it, but hopefully we will see us targeting players that can improve this squad and can improve this team and our ones for the future. So obviously, guys, keep your eye out on the latest news that's coming. I think the next couple of weeks coming to the end of May are going to be really crucial when you think about the latest news, because Ten Hag is actually going to get in touch with the board, get in touch with the players, and we'll get to see more updates on what's happening. I think updates on Ronaldo's future is going to be really key over the next few weeks. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. And it was some really good insight there by Rob, and hopefully some of the stuff he says about allowing Ten Hag to bring his assistants in, allowing Ten Hag to spend more money than what the target is this summer if he needs to do that, are true. And hopefully we can convince some players to get on board with this project and come to Manchester United in the summer. It's going to be a very, very busy summer. It's going to be a very, very interesting season, but we'll be here on the United Stand to give you all the latest updates. I will be live on the Fan Forum later with Adam, Holly and Kev. So make sure you're there and join us for that one. And thank you everyone for the comments. Thank you for watching the interviews as per usual. And I will see you all on the next one.